Graeme Souness was responsible for the rise in my career. So that I'd known Graeme as when he was playing, and actually, bizarrely, I was Paul McStay's agent at one point. I think
you were.
Yeah, I was. And I went to Graeme for advice about. I'll tell you another programme about Paul and the adventures along that particular journey. But so Graeme, I'd become pal with Graeme, and then he gets the job at Rangers, and he became. I was in the Evening Times. I mean,
did he tell you he was coming?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
Yeah.
But so by the time it's announced, he's in the Scotland squad still for the World Cup in '86.
Right.
So we're crossing the Atlantic to go to Santa Fe, New Mexico for 2 weeks altitude training. I wasn't training altitude; I was drinking at altitude. But we're in the hotel. So on the plane, I'm sure there was just the team and the media, and this massive plane going across the pond, and halfway across the Atlantic, Graeme, move up. There's 3 or 4 rows, no seats around us, just me and him. And he says, "Stuart, bring a bottle of champagne." So he's pouring champagne into me. He says, "Right," he says, "I want you to tell me what it's like." I said, what are you talking about? He says, "I'm a boy from Edinburgh." He said, I went to England when I was 15. I don't know really about Glasgow versus Scotland. Manager Rangers, what do I need to know? I said, "Well, yeah, I don't." He says, "Just to you're born, I was born in Govan, brought up." So he's pouring champagne into me. He thinks that will loosen my tongue, Peter, which it does. And so he's another shot, another glass. And I said, "Well, look," he had a cross round his neck and a chain. I said,
Yeah.
"I don't even believe that for a start." I said, "But his first wife had bought him." I said, hey, you're confusing me. I do not have one bit of bigotry in my body, but you're asking me to paint a picture, and I don't think certain Rangers fans at that time would accept the manager of Rangers. So anyway, I said, "Do you want me to tell you?" Or no? So anyway, off he goes. He starts saying, "Look, I'm signing a Catholic," and he starts pouring his heart out with this. I'm going, and I'm thinking, "Oh," I said, "I am the reporter for the Glasgow Evening Times. Can I use this?"
Yes.
And he says, "Absolutely." I said, "For once, I better start taking some notes," because I wasn't known for note taking. And so by the time I get to America, to Santa Fe, he's told me he'll sign a Catholic, he'll do this and that thing, and Rangers will become line after line. So I get in, and there'd been Alan Davidson, God rest him, was the chief sports writer of the Evening Times. I was the number 2. So there was a big battle whether I was going to get sent. I did. The editor George McKegney backed sending me. So I'm on the phone, and remember the time difference suited me. It's midnight over there. It's whatever it was, 7 a.m. here, first edition. I think I might have a bit of a story for you. Rangers manager, I'll sign a Catholic. It sounds nothing now, but back in 1986, and so I had the front page lead splash, centre pages, back page lead, and I said to George, "I think I might have justified your faith."
Yes.
And Graeme. So from that moment, Graeme kept giving me stories all the time, and I played a part. And he said, I think one day he says to me, "Why don't you phone Mark Hateley?" This is like 7:30 a.m. Why would he said, "Well, you might find that we're interested in him." And Hateley was at Milan at the time. And I said, "How am I going to get a number from Mark Hateley? Write this down." So I phoned Hateley. One again, it's 7:30, 8 o'clock here.
Perfect timing for you.
Absolutely pure night. So I phoned Hateley. I said, "Look, I understand that you might be wanting to go to Rangers." He says, "Well, I can go to Rangers or Monaco." Just spilled the beans. He said, "I can go to Rangers or Monaco, but yes." And it's just like, I'm taking notes again. I would, it said all the right things about Rangers. Great, and of course, as soon as he planted it with me because he wanted the story out there. So it's January And I look out the window in Albion Street in Glasgow, and it's still dark. It's pissing the rain. It's grey. It's depressing. It's dreich. And I said to Mark Haley, let me get this straight, Mark. You've got the choice of going to Monaco or this place. Are you off your head? So he did sign for Monaco, as you recall, but he worked his way to Rangers. But he still recalls that story. And Souness says, you're meant to talk him into it, no talk.
I was going to say, and of course, Mark still managed to trap up in the yellow and black Versace jacket with, of course, the Ferrari. You know, all of those things sadly taken away from him.
So that was a good thing. Graham was. So I was getting, but you know, at the same time, Billy McNeil previously was giving me stuff out of Parkhead that was. I loved Billy, outstanding human being, and he was great. He was great. Stories with him as well.
And that's the great thing about it, because you build up contacts, you build up trust. That's what the game's about, you know. And if nobody answers the phone to you, you're never going to get the story. You could be the best writer in the world. So I think there's great credit for the job that you did, for the way you were building your career up. Sometimes along the way, there's a Jonathan Watson moment where Johnny, who's your pal, you know, creates this caricature of you. And in a way, how do you view it? Because sometimes I look and I think to myself, well, he made this caricature which makes you hugely popular, but did you at one point look at the negative and think, well, even if I managed to break another Souness story or a Billy McNeil story, you know, suddenly I'm this caricature with Johnny Watson?
Well, it's interesting you use the word caricature, because so what happened was it started on a radio programme called Naked Radio.
Yes.
And they created this, and I had just left, maybe I've still been with Evening Times, but on Radio Clyde I knew working, and I heard myself, Johnny's impression of me on the radio, and the first time that happens to you, what? Why would MD want to? And then it became an absolute, because they went on to television and only an excuse, it became absolutely massive. And my basic thought about it is, it's either funny or it's not funny, and actually it's very funny.
Very funny.
So, but I used to think, all the other people that were doing it at the time, well, that's really like Graeme Souness, Dennis Law, really like them, really good. And I thought, but it's not like me, it's the very word you used, it's a caricature of me.
Absolutely.
And then I thought to myself, why am I the only one that's a caricature? Why is it not a caricature of Dennis or Graham or whoever else? And that made me think, so this whole thing was loaded upon me, the perception of me being a Rangers fan. And it was, the more they protested, the more it was laid upon you. Now, the truth of the matter is, I was born in Govan. I went to school quite near Ibrox. My brother, who's sadly passed, massive Rangers fan. My pals, all the pressure on me as a kid was to support Rangers, but I didn't. My stepdad, that's where I get this. My dad died when I was only 5. My mum remarried, so my stepdad was a huge St Mirren fan, and that didn't become a St Mirren fan until I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
So I never claimed to be, run to pace as a kid, but then, and of course, I wrote a book about Rangers under Souness the first season, Rebirth of the Blues. And because you write a book, you're my tie. Well, as you well know, I did it for the money. Exactly. So, but of course, that's it. Super good for the rest of it. It doesn't matter what you say. Johnny goes on, creates this character who's the glorious Glasgow Rangers, and no matter what I said, I'll continue to say to this day, it's the perception. So, but a clever wee man, and Phil Difford, who writes the stuff, of course. Brilliantly funny. There was one New Year they opened. You got to remember, Peter. It's 11 o'clock in Hogmanay. The nation is watching this.
Yeah.
And he opened up, and he was standing with a crystal glass of whiskey and a big wooden fireplace, and being me, and I'm sitting watching this, and my partner, and I'm looking at this. I had a big Victorian house in Bog Shield at the time, And I'm looking at the mantelpiece in the television, and I'm looking at my mantelpiece. And I'm looking at the whiskey glass, and I'm looking at my whiskey glass. And I said, did you let him in here? Yeah, they had it. Of course, Johnny had been in the house, he would know.
But knowing you as a do, you kind of you can turn things. It's not that you're devoid of being, hurt or things like that. But you can flip things.
Well, it's flattering as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you turn it to your advantage. There's no doubt that my pal that I talked about, Bill, who went to Cape Town, didn't come back for years. And in the period he was in Cape Town, that was when life exploded for me in the 90s, really.
Yeah.
And he came back, said, right, we're going to town. I said, Billy, I can't go into town on Saturday night. Yeah. Aye, what are you talking about? I said, Billy, I can't go into town. And it does sound big-headed, but it was so, all right, we're going to town. And every 10 yards, there's just people, photographs and
yeah.
And Billy, eventually, I remember we were trying to get from Gordon Street to Bath Street, and Billy turned and says, what the fuck happened?
Just went mental.
He went away, for over 8 or 9 years, and just